Aloha everyone, this is Dr. BethAnne, and this is December's edition of Your Heart Magic. I chose the theme, The Light Within, for this month because that's the light that can't be extinguished, right? In the northern hemisphere, we are moving towards winter solstice, and I live in Kauai now, so that means like 10 and a half hours of daylight. I used to live in Alaska, which meant 4.5 hours of daylight. It is dark this time of year in some places. And southern hemisphere is opposite, but you guys go through the same thing in June, so you know what I'm talking about. It can be hard to find the light when we go through darkness in our life. It can be hard to find what's beautiful or what's true or what is authentic. I think the definition of what is light is different for each of us based on our understanding of who we are and our spiritual understanding and our understanding of the nature of the world that we live in. But it is the light that I believe can't go out. And sometimes the light within can feel really dim and we have a hard time finding perspective. December can be a really hard month for me. This January will mark 4 years of losing my brother. And so going through the holidays is sometimes an interesting experience. I never know how I'll feel. Grief is unpredictable. Sometimes everything's fine and it's asleep and it's sad and I miss Brent, but it's not at the forefront. And then there's been a couple times over the past few years where it just seizes the day or seizes a crop of days or even the week sometimes and kind of takes over, and grief runs the show for a little bit. So there are times on the human journey where it's really hard for us to find our light, and I want to acknowledge that, especially if you should find yourself in a space where you are having a hard time with that right now. It's part of being human. We are here to experience the full spectrum of all emotions, and they are all part of our whole, and that's the light too. Sometimes the best we can do if we're in a grief or a depression is just know this is part of being human, and it can be a hard gift sometimes that we want to give back. But there's beauty in the whole, especially as we come through those seasons of contraction and open back up and expand and engage with the world with new wisdom or learning or knowledge that we learned when we were in a contracted space. And that was my encouragement in the letter this month that went out with this video, was to think about what were the hidden lights for you in 2019. It's great to acknowledge all the good things that happen, and I feel like that's really important, and it's important to have gratitude when things go well in our outside, our external world. But I wanted to bring the emphasis on what didn't happen the way that you thought it would. What was hard? What was challenging? How were you stretched or tested? How did you grow? And look at the idea of what was the hidden light in that. Did you learn something new? Did you morph from an old version of self and move into a more authentic version of who you are? Did you discover courage that you didn't know you had, a truth that you didn't know was in there, and you found yourself speaking it and thought, oh shit, I can't take these words back, and it's coming out, and you just have to go with it because something in you is wanting to express itself? Did you learn about love in new ways? Did you learn about self-love in new ways? Did you have any spiritual epiphanies or epiphanies about the universe or this beautiful earth that we live on? What hidden lights came to you this year, and how did they grow who you are as a human being? I can tell you for myself, and I'll just keep this really brief. This is going to be in my talks in the upcoming year, and it's in my next book. But this was a really challenging year for me, and it's not very often that I will say good riddance, and I'm not saying good riddance. It's not my nature to do so, but I am looking back on 2019 and saying this is not a year that I would care to repeat. It was incredibly challenging in some spiritual ways and personal ways and professional ways and financial ways, and actually most ways, some health ways, and they all really coalesced. And I went through a major identity shift and a real stripping away of having to surrender who I thought I was in order to become who I'm really meant to be and who my soul wanted me to be. That's a light within. It's a light that came from a lot of darkness. That's the kind of light I'm talking about. So maybe it's not as dramatic as that, but my reflection for you this season is to, first of all, have fun. If good things are going on, enjoy them. If community things are going on, be festive, be connected, be appreciative. If you're in a space for that, find the joy. We're here to celebrate and to experience the beauty. And a lot of us in doing our spiritual work are always so hard at work that we don't always have a lot of fun. We're busy thinking and working and being adults, so go have fun. So first of all that, but second of all, take time for yourself, take time to reflect, take time to really go through what happened this year, take inventory. What did you learn from it? What are you leaving 2019 with? Like, what light do you want to keep from this year? And if there's stuff that you say, good riddance, I don't want to repeat that, that's cool. I am with you on that. How do you release that and say, thank you so much, soul lesson. I respect that you came into my periphery to teach me this. Thank you for what I learned. I release the lesson, like I release what happened on the surface, and I keep the light that it created or that it helped lighten me below. I keep the growth, and I release whatever I still have attached to the circumstances. So it's just a beautiful time of the year to really think about where we've been and really think about where do we want to go as we head into 2020. So I'm going to read a really short, very short quote from you from my book, Things of That Nature, Words for the Mystic Heart. It just came out this week. The real one will not have the ugly gray proof copy. This is just my proof. But this is, it's fun, it's illustrated. This is just a quote, and I felt like it tied in really well with the theme of the light within. From our darkest mood to our brightest light, we must learn to become like the moon and embody all parts of ourselves, seeing the sacred in all, always changing, always shifting, yet completely at peace with our faces and phases, knowing each aspect of being provides a valuable contribution to the cycle of our whole. So, when the moon is new and we can't see her and she looks dark to us in the sky, the moon doesn't question her light. She doesn't question that she's capable of totally lighting up the sky so bright that you take a walk in the evening, or maybe you live in a snowy place and it reflects off the ground and you don't need a light because the moon is creating this luminescent effect. She knows she's always full. She's always whole. She's always bright, regardless of what her face looks like and regardless of how we might see her. And so that is my offering to you this December. Can you see yourself like that? Can you realize the light within is always burning? It's always bright. You're always capable of finding it, no matter what phase life has you in. And how do you go about finding that for yourself? And I invite you to take space to continue that self-discovery and that journey. Thank you so much for joining me. This is just a reminder that in January, your heart magic is shifting to the name Intuitive You, and I'm really excited about some of the changes coming in 2020. It feels like a really a build year for a lot of us, and a year where we might see further illumination to some of the questions we each have about our lives and our journeys. So have an amazing last month in this decade, and I will see everybody in January. I wish you much aloha and light.